Hello, everybody. Welcome
Oh,
to a Wednesday edition of Finance Junkies. How are you guys doing?
I'm good, but I just caught it. I just caught the video going live. It only caught the do your own research.
Wait, no, there's no way, dude.
I swear to God. Did anybody see the intro? I don't think anyone saw the
There's
intro.
no way. That
No.
would be insane.
I don't think anyone saw it.
If we messed up that much. No, we got it. We got a little bit of it. We got
You
it.
sure?
Yeah,
Oh,
we got
it. You said 3, 2, and I was like,
No,
oh.
you got it. You did it well. You did
All
well.
right, cool. Hey, what's up, everybody?
All right, so Vitaly and Chris can't make it tonight, so we are joined by, I think at this point, the official fifth junkie, Mr. Steve.
Let me tell you something, Steve. People are growing on this audience. People at first were like, I don't get this guy. He's too robotic. Now people are saying, yo, he's hysterical. I want to go out for a drink with this guy. Like, yo, Steve, you're turning the folks around.
Steve, I texted you a screenshot this morning of a comment. Someone was just like, I don't know what it is about Steve, but when he talks,
it's hysterical.
I just enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that, Steve.
I will try not to disappoint.
What do you have to say to all your fans?
I will try not to disappoint.
You got Raphael, who's like, you're way better than Amit already. So,
man, throwing him in under the bus, under the bus.
Okay, so Steve is our macroeconomic expert. So this 1 hour, we're going to discuss three things: the Fed, the Zuck's testimony, and maybe get into a conversation about sort of all the stuff going around Instagram and Facebook and responsibilities, and then probably a little bit of Tesla talk as well at the end. Federal Reserve said we are going to likely not be cutting rates in March. That was verbatim what Powell said. He said there's not consensus. Our base case is a March cut. He also is not raising rates right now. So the market's percentage went from 77 to 44 to now about 38% for a March cut. Likely, I think it's going to go under 10% in the next couple of weeks, especially if January CPI isn't below 3%. Steve, what was your raw reaction, and do you think that the Fed is getting it right?
Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
No shit, they're not cutting. No shit.
I mean, silence develop right there.
I mean, have I not been? And look, I cannot predict markets or whatnot, but admit, have I not been telling you what is going to happen the entire time for the past year and a fucking half?
No, you have. But
every step of the way. Everybody's like, they're cutting in the summer last year. They're definitely cutting in September. No, the fuck, they're not. They're not cutting.
Well, why? Why do you think they're not cutting?
Okay. The Fed got it wrong in the beginning. Okay. The worst thing that they can do, because the economy is not broken, you have GDP expanding. You have unemployment at lows. Okay. You have a hot economy. The worst thing they could do is cut rates right now. It's the worst thing they could do. I mean, most likely they're not going to cut until, I think it's a toss-up between May and June. But what scares me is if you go on the Fed Watch tool, which has been updated because the March meeting now is pretty much 50-50. I mean, 53% chance we're going to get a cut, 47% chance we're not. This was at like 97% last week that we were going to get a cut. If you look out to December, I mean, I still think the market's pricing in too much. I mean, look at this.
What do you mean pricing in too much? Pricing in, you're saying that some of the recent the run-ups have been in anticipation of a rate cut?
Well, I think the market's pricing in too many cuts because the CME group, the Fed Watch tool, still has 65% the rates are going to be between 350 and 400 bips to close the year out. I mean, I just don't see that we're going to get at least 150 bips of cuts. I don't see it.
How do you factor in the fact that it's an election year?
Look, I don't like to get political, but it would be foolish to say that either party would not want a strong economy going into an election cycle because people tend to vote with their pockets. And
so how would cutting rates hurt the economy go in the election year? Say you wait till June, right? So if something is going to break, it breaks after the election.
So look, I do think that both parties want rate cuts. And look, rate cuts is the best thing the Fed could do for the country because the amount of interest that we are paying on the national debt is obscene. Okay. We should have finance. And look, don't like the guy, doesn't matter. Okay. A lot of people didn't like the messenger, but they destroyed the message. And I'm taking that from Chamath because he got that right. When they wanted to refinance all the debt with 50 and 100-year bonds, they should have.
Who's they?
The big bad orange.
You can say his name, dude. It's not that serious. You can say his
big bad orange
like
guy.
With the Illuminati in 2017. You know.
Okay. Mnuchin was the brains behind it. Issuing 50 and 100-year bonds at record low rates would have been great. Now we have interest payments that are exceeding the military budget. Okay. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it would be wonderful if the Fed just started cutting because it would lower what we owe, because we'd be issuing new debt at lower coupons, paying off old debt. But from an economic standpoint, it just wouldn't do good because the economy is not broken right now. And you could have inflation tick up. But at the same time, you have a ton of debt coming due. They need to start cutting this year. I just don't think you're going to get 150 bips.
Can you play
more likely to get 100 bips at the most?
Did you hear the Q&A at the very end? I was watching the live stream I met with you. Did you hear the Q&A at the end? Somebody called him out on that, and they were basically asking, like, are you looking at old data because Trueflation has shown that we're like at 1.4, 1.5, and you keep saying that we need to be at 2 and nothing but 2?
He acknowledged that housing data is likely lagging. He didn't literally say it like that, but it was read between the lines. But then he was just like, the data is the data, and we'll make decisions when we see more data. The same thing he always says. But he knows it's coming.
The real problem is they're using lagging data. The real problem is it's 2024 and they do not have real-time feeds into everything.
Why? Why don't you think they have that?
Is it a bureaucratic thing?
It's got to be
that answer.
I think it has to be by design. There has to be some reason why they don't fix it. You know, like the government would fix it if it was in their best interest to.
We have the technology and the data to fix it. We should be going by real-time data and not making decisions on lagging data. It is crazy that we are doing that. It's an archaic system. I mean, that's one of the first things that should be fixed. But
so ultimately, you thought it was ridiculous for anyone to feel there was going to be a March cut, and we knew the Fed was going to.
Yeah, I mean, look, the guy wants to say that we've won. He can't say that. I mean, it was pretty clear today that he took a victory lap without taking a victory lap and without committing to anything. He said that they're at the end of the hikes. He said that we're going to get rate cuts this year. He just wants to make sure, and the Fed wants to make sure that when they do it, they're in a position that inflation is not going to creep up if they do it. The guy has been, except for coming into this late, he's been pretty good at getting us to where we are.
They did say something about a soft landing, that it looks like we are actually going to get the soft landing. And I had the same feeling you did, that he didn't want to take a victory lap, but he's proud of what he's done, and he doesn't want to get ahead of himself by, I think what he's trying to not, it's the opposite of spooking markets. He doesn't want markets to get too excited where money starts to come in too quickly. That's what I feel he's doing. He's being very cautious with his words. I don't know if you can pull up a little bit of the Q&A that was at the end of it, because that was the best part.
He wasn't hawkish at all. You know, I thought he would be a little hawkish. He really wasn't. Like, he wanted to give confidence. He wanted to take a victory lap without saying that we've won or inflation's dead. And we're going to get what we want. It's just the whole time people have been trying to read in between the lines. There's no need to. Powell's a straight shooter. He's telling you what he's going to do the whole time. It's just nobody's believed him.
Here's what he said about rate cuts in March. Let's get this 2-minute clip in.
Lawrence from Fox Business. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for taking this. So as I've heard from some district Fed presidents, is it, in your view, a little premature to think that rate cuts are right around the corner? And then when we do see that first rate cut, should we interpret that as the beginning of a rate cut cycle, or is it a one-off?
So I'll point to that language on your first question. We included that language in the statement to signal clearly that with strong growth, strong labor market, inflation coming down, the committee intends to move carefully as we consider when to begin to dial back the restrictive stance that we have in place. So if you take that to the current context, we're going to be data dependent. We're going to be looking at this meeting by meeting. Based on the meeting today, I would tell you that I don't think it's likely that the committee will reach a level of confidence by the time of the March meeting to identify March as the time to do that. But that's to be seen. So I wouldn't call, when you
That right there is when the market crashed. That right when you said that, we went straight down.
when you ask me about in the near term, I'm hearing that as March. I would say I don't think it's probably not the most likely case or what we would call the base case. Then your second question is
is this the start of when we see a cut, is it the start of a cutting cycle, or could it just be a one-off?
That's going to depend on the data. The whole thing is this is going to depend on the data. We're going to be looking at the economic data as it affects the outlook and the balance of risks, and we're going to make our decisions based on that. And could wind up.
It's like, how many times does this guy have to say it's going to be data dependent? He says it at every meeting. They keep asking him the same freaking questions. It's like nobody believes this guy. It's crazy.
All right, but then what would you ask him? I mean, that's what people want to know.
I would ask him to be on my podcast, and then on the podcast, I would be like, "So, have you got any new data about what's going on?"
What someone said in the chat.
The question that I would ask him is, why are we looking at backward-looking data, and why have we not built a system that compiles everything in real time and gives us real-time indicators of what is going on in the economy?
So
That
Foundry.
would be exactly what I ask him.
Right. So why aren't you guys
Palantir.
on using Palantir?
Palantir.
Not a bad idea.
Oh, man.
Well, why
Contract,
does he even do
contract.
these conferences anymore if like he can just put out a statement and like
You know what else is crazy? That these press conferences get the attention that they do. 5 years ago, nobody cared about Fed meetings. Nobody even watched them. It is
We also
nuts.
printed 40% of the overall money supply ever
Like-
in the last 2 years. So people are.
It's crazy. Like I
dude,
think
there,
about
there were 4,000 people waiting on CNBC's live stream. Like people care, dude. People
yeah,
really care.
like Carlos, you've been investing for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in like 2002, did anybody give a shit about the Fed?
No, but the level of money printing. I mean, look, when Obama bailed out the car companies, it was $800 billion, and people were like, $800 billion, bro. They throw $800 billion at the military now, just that one line item. So it's comparable. It's the scale. It's the scale of the money printing and the effect of COVID that I think has people understanding just how money works. And so they understand that these rates are really important, especially now that people understand that rate is tied into the cost of your money when you borrow when you want to buy a home, when you want to do student loans, or if you have a medical bill or something. People now understand that's really tied to that.
Now, the interest rates at these levels is a problem for a lot of things. It's a problem for people who want to make big purchases. It's a problem for people starting out in life that are trying to buy their first home. It's a problem for the country because we are spending so much in interest and we just keep borrowing money. Rates here is a problem. Like
Again,
they do need to come down.
The Fed's not dropping it anytime soon. So
I mean, depends what your definition of soon is. May is pretty soon. Tomorrow's February.
May is what, 4 months away from February?
Yeah,
March, April, May.
Honestly, that's nothing. That's
You'll be here before you know it.
basically next earnings.
Okay. So I guess that begs the second question. We'll piggyback off this and then we'll get to Zucks. Do you think, Steve, we're ready for a pullback given the market was pricing in these cuts and now J. Powell said it's not happening?
Can you share that screen before you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dow falls more than 300 points after the Fed deflates rate cut hopes. Stocks tumble Wednesday after Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell indicated it likely won't start cutting rates at the central bank's next policy meeting. The Dow closed 318 points, or 0.8 lower. S&P dropped 1.6. NASDAQ fell 2.2. Financial markets see about 34% chance the Feds will lower rates, down from 73%. Google dropped 7. Google's parent Alphabet and Microsoft dropped 7.4 and 2.7%. Apple was down 1.9. Meta stock fell 2.5. Amazon dropped 2.4. And Nvidia was 2% lower. I love how they didn't even talk about Tesla. I think Tesla dropped today too. And Apple and Meta report earnings later this week. So yeah, the Mag 7 took the hit.
Do you think we're going to see a pullback, Steve?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, look,
We're at all-time highs.
There is a real possibility that stocks got a little bit ahead of themselves, but not everything. Maybe the big ones. Like, I think the real thing that people need to think about here is, and look, markets are going to do what markets are going to do. One person sells, one person buys. But at some point, people have to understand every company out there is a business. If you're running a business on your own, or you're going to buy a business, let's just say a pizza parlor, okay? If you're going to buy a pizza parlor, you're not going to want to pay too much for that shop, okay? At some point, we have to look at these companies as you're paying for their profitability. And at some point, people have to understand that $1 of profit is $1 of profit, and 10% in annualized EPS increase is the same 10% across the board. Doesn't matter if you're a tech company or a software company or a retailer. $1 is $1. And we may have stocks that are a little bit too expensive for how much profitability they generate. But at the same time, we probably have a lot of stocks that are undervalued. And I think that this could make us have a broad market rally where a lot of the companies that are in the S&P that have been kind of stagnant or down, like maybe not Procter & Gamble, that was the first one that came to my head, but maybe like a Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, those companies, Altria, participate in a broad market rally, Pfizer, Bristol Myers, and tech doesn't get that crazy for a little bit. Maybe it's next earnings season or the following one in Q3 where they start to go up again.
Like, I understand that markets can only go up or down, so there has to be some reaction to the Fed rates. But what I don't understand is, even with the companies that have already reported this quarter, like, none of their forward guidance was like, oh, this is taking into account that we're going to get rate cuts in March. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, they'll give forward guidance as to what they intend to do. And so this sell-off, I understand, is a reaction to, oh man, we're not, we're going to be higher for longer. But it just doesn't make sense. Alphabet and Microsoft dropping 7.4%. It just doesn't make sense to me that they would drop on this news that we're going to have rate cuts when that wasn't factored into their guidance.
Microsoft could be the most important company in the market. I always go back and forth. It's either Microsoft or Apple, and I would tend to say Microsoft because most of corporations run on Microsoft software. But Microsoft's trading at 30 times or 31 times 2025 earnings. Like, at some point, these companies can be looked at as being priced just right or expensive. I mean, Microsoft is certainly not cheap here.
What's Apple trading at, though?
Let me pull it up. Probably like 26. I think.
Apple's at 38. No, on a PE.
26 and a half times next year's earnings. Because right now they're in fiscal year 24. They don't report on a calendar year.
I mean, we saw a broader decline today as soon as he said no rate cuts. I think Google's an isolated thing, but I think, I think Tom Lee's kind of right about this. We could see like momentum die down for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple months. If CPI comes in hot, March, we don't get the cut. And then by May, April, we start thinking a little bit more about the next leg up. Or the S&P just stays stuck in this 48 to 4,900 range and we don't get the 10% decline. And then we go to 5,200.
Yeah, look, it could trade sideways. I just don't think we're going to have in tech the same thing that we saw last year. I don't think these companies are going up 40% this year. Like, that's not normal.
Well, the semis already have, which is the funny
Which
part.
is crazy.
I agree.
Crazy.
Well,
you don't add 100 billion to market cap overnight. Like, that's nuts.
The semi has, but a lot of the big tech companies, they ran up a bunch, but they were also down a bunch. So you can look at it as a bit of returning to the
middle. But when they were up in 2021, that was all bullshit. Like, there was no reason for Meta to be worth $1 trillion in 2021, dude. Like,
are you making a case? You could make the same case today.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
They're doing like $125 billion a year now. Like, that's a reasonable multiple. Whereas before they were doing like $80 billion a year. I mean, just like things have changed. They've grown. They got rid of 20,000 employees.
Okay, but again, it's
here's the question: is this all-time high a real all-time high, or is it a 2021 all-time high, which is a bubble all-time high? That is the existential question right now.
Well, you won't know until you look back.
Well, that's what we got to figure out.
You know what I mean? You're not gonna, but at the end, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You could argue that this all-time high is not as high as the last all-time high because of inflation.
You could.
Hitting these all-time highs.
This is why it matters, because if you thought it wasn't an all-time high, a real all-time high, then you would have bought Tesla at 414.
Look, ultimately, over time, the S&P is going to appreciate in value. Just buy an S&P index fund, you'll be okay. You just keep buying it.
Yeah, I recently did that in my retirement account.
That's in my retirement account. That's the only thing I'm in is an S&P index fund. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's transition to Zuck. So that was the Fed. That was not the most exciting thing of the day, though. I'm just going to play this clip. We'll hear it, and then we'll get into a discussion. So this is Senator Josh Hawley talking to Zuckerberg at a Congress hearing about child safety on social media.
I think it's appropriate to talk about steps that you took. The fact that you didn't fire a single person. Let me ask you this. Have you compensated any of the victims?
Sorry?
Have you compensated any of the victims? These girls, have you compensated them?
I don't believe so.
Why not? Don't you think they deserve some compensation for what your platform has done? Help with counseling services, help with dealing with the issue.
What is he talking
Your
about?
services cause?
Our job.
So apparently a lot of, this is good context, there were survivor families in the audience, about 10 to 20 of them, of kids who have died because of, I don't know exactly how, but content they consumed on Meta or on social media writ large.
Some of it had to do with
suicide, is like different stuff like that.
Yes, suicide was one. Also, access to drugs. There was sex crimes.
Yeah. So it was directly correlated with Meta's products and TikTok's all that stuff. So this is what happens at the end of this exchange.
Is to make sure that we build tools to help keep people safe.
Are you going to compensate them?
Senator, our job and what we take seriously is making sure that we build industry-leading tools to find harmful content,
make money,
take it off the services,
to make money,
and to build tools that empower parents.
So you didn't take any action. You didn't take any action. You didn't fire anybody. You haven't compensated a single victim. Let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well,
they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to?
This is the most beta thing you could have ever done, but this is what he does.
Apologize for what you've done to these good people.
Look at Linda sitting right next to him.
It's so sad, dude. This is the saddest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's being humiliated.
You can't even hear him, but he's just saying, I'm sorry for what happened.
To make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
Why, Mr. Zuckerberg, why should...
That's the main thing.
That wasn't the main one.
What, the Ted Cruz one was the main one too?
The Ted Cruz one was the main one. If you want to share that one, that was the main one. That was the one where I was like, damn, they really...
Yeah, they got it. Well, Ted got him in a pickle, and he could not get out of that pickle.
Ted got him in a way where he couldn't. I mean, here's the thing. Even if you're a Meta investor, you've got to ask yourself how the fuck, because this is something that I wasn't aware of. You even got to ask yourself, how the fuck do they do this?
No audio.
Individual.
Oh, okay. You're good.
The following warning screen to individuals who were searching for child abuse material. These results may contain images of child sexual abuse. And then you gave users two choices: get resources or see results anyway. Mr. Zuckerberg, what the hell were you thinking?
All right, Senator. The basic science behind that is that when people are searching for something that is problematic, it's often helpful to, rather than just blocking it, to help direct them towards something that that could be helpful for getting them to get help.
In what, I understand get resources. In what sane universe is there a link for see results anyway?
Well, because we might be wrong. We try to trigger this warning, or we tried to. when we think that there's any chance that the results.
Okay, you might be
harmful.
wrong. Let me ask you, how many times was this wording screen displayed?
I don't know, but the
Hey, you don't know. Why don't you know?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Oof.
And then he just keeps ripping into him, basically saying like, well, are you going to give me an answer? Blah, 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 blah. Let's start off with Steve before we get to Carlos. Steve, as a meta investor, what were your thoughts on how Zuck handled himself today?
I'm gonna have to go back and watch the entire thing. This is the first I'm seeing it.
It's a long one. Yeah, it's a long.
But like those two clips are enough context to at least get a glimpse of how the day went. He has earnings tomorrow. What were your thoughts?
All right, here's my initial thought. And I don't know the context behind it. I don't use Facebook. I don't use Instagram.
Yes, you do. You send me Instagram reels every day. Don't lie in front of 363 people. You send me.
Hold on. Let me repeat.
Oh my God, you just got caught in 4K, dude.
I
This
don't
is ridiculous.
put pictures on Instagram or anything like
Steve,
that.
this is an ice cream Instagram reel that you're sending me. This is
I
an
have
ice
food stuff
cream
I look at.
Instagram reel.
Steve, do you want to get more resources, or do you want to see results?
This is the shit Steve's sending me. I didn't even watch it yet. This is I don't use Instagram. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't use it the way most people use it. Like I don't post pictures or anything like that. Like I look at freaking food stuff and sports card stuff on there. But a company with that type of technology, how is it that when something is uploaded to their platform, they can't immediately know that it has child abuse or something like that and automatically have it taken down? That would be my first question. Like you have all this technology. How is it that you can't eliminate it right off the bat? That'd be the first thing I want to know.
Likewise. And there was also a really obvious question that they should have asked when he said, "Oh, we do everything we can." Oh, he said, what did he say? We instead of taking it down, because we could be wrong. Remember, he said the reason why we don't just ban it is because we could be wrong. I would have asked, well, then give me an example of the type of material that would get incorrectly flagged as child abuse or child sexual content, and that was wrong.
Right.
And explain to me why, and explain to me how that content reaching its audience is more important than blocking the potential for child sexual abuse. That's what I would have asked. I feel like
what was your thoughts on Holly embarrassing him? What were your thoughts on that?
Me, I even tweeted it. I think he went too far. I think he did what I think a lot of the Democrats get guilty of. They want that soundbite. Like that's what they wanted. They wanted that clip to get pulled and guys like us to talk about it. That's what, AOC will do that a lot. A lot of the Democrats will do that a lot, especially when they talk about the border. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think politicians should be playing up to social media or trying to play a game of gotcha. But I think the nugget of what he was saying is true. And to Steve's point, when he's doing an earnings call, he makes it feel like he really knows the company and the buck stops with me and we have all this great technology. We got all this stuff. But then when you try to call them out on some things that are happening on their platform, he acts like I don't know, or I disagree with that assessment. All of a sudden he becomes a robot just spitting out canned lines and you never get a direct answer.
I would have rather seen Zuckerberg stand up and say, it's on me. I'm the founder and CEO. This will be fixed, and we're going to allocate whatever it takes to improve and make sure that
he did say that.
Is not on the platform.
He said we're going to make investments. Here's my take. Let me push back against you guys a little bit. I don't think Zuck should apologize because I don't think Facebook did anything wrong. These parents are bad parents. You know why? Hold on. Let me make the point, and then I'm gonna let you cook. Let me make my point. On Twitter, there are videos of Hamas killing people. There is literal porn on Twitter. It is anyone who has an account. If you lie about your age, you will see it. It will pop up in your feed. I've seen Twitter ads with girls who are naked in these ads. I mean, I have screenshots of these. I can say like that I don't see on Meta because Twitter, obviously, they're in this advertising funk. They're taking as much money as they can get from everybody. Twitter is no better. Neither is Snapchat. Neither is TikTok. These parents that have these girls that have all these self-image issues because they see a girl with big tits in a bikini, you got to get your daughter to realize that there's other things in life than just having big tits. And if she is susceptible to Instagram, you as a parent have to step in. That is not on Zucks. Not 1 ounce of responsibility, I think, is on Zucks. I think it's on parents.
Well, you're conflating having certain material available on the website with the algorithm pushing that. That is what they're complaining about. And one of the other senators actually brought him to task on that the algorithm is the problem. It's not the content is the problem. There were so many. I think it was Wall Street Journal did an example. You open up just a blank Instagram account. You don't, and you could just say, I'm 13 years old. The moment you say you're 13 years old, within 5 seconds, the algorithm is feeding you.
If you're a parent, don't let your kid on Instagram. That's like saying reading Playboy magazine in the 1980s. The magazine is obviously the problem.
No,
There's a lot of naked women there. Don't let your kids buy the magazine.
The difference is this, and we're not talking about like 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. We're talking about like teenagers and
teenagers, yeah,
12, 13-year-old. The problem is that social media is so ingrained into our lives right now that even if you cut them off from it, they have so many other touch points and access points with which that they are exposed.
Like what?
To stuff.
Like what?
Even just in school.
What are you talking about?
In school, even in school, all it takes is one kid to have access to a phone, and then everybody's on it. It's the same one. When we were kids, wait,
hold on. You think someone's giving their phone to people in class?
What do you think? In the same way that Steve sends you a link, if you're in school and you see a funny video or something crazy, you share it with your.
No, Apple has very good security settings. If I was a parent, I would have a password that requires you to download apps.
You can listen. It's
very simple to not let Instagram get on a kid's
phone. You can do all of that. But if you want your kids to get the benefits of social media, what they're saying is, if you want your kids to get the benefits that were sold on social media, the ability to connect with your friends. A lot of schools actually have Facebook groups, and that's how they will work on homework or work on projects. Like social media is used in education.
You're incorrect on this, Carlos. I just graduated high school. We had something called Edmodo. No school is allowed to use social media as a group platform. We had something called Edmodo. That was where we did our homework. That's where, like, it's like schools can't sign contracts with Facebook. They're banned from Facebook. I had to use a VPN when I was in high school to try to get on Facebook.
The point is, what you're doing is you're making an excuse for a company that we heard whistleblower testimony that Facebook's own internal study on this stuff, and when they ran this study, they concluded that their platform is in fact amplifying certain child sexual content. It is allowing grown adults access to minors in a certain way. It is being the DM features, which they just changed, are allowing adults to reach out and to groom minors. And then in addition to the content that's out there, and this is just the child sexual exploitation stuff. This is not even the political stuff. This is just this one piece of it. The study, their own internal study, showed that this is the effect that it's having. And they did nothing about it. And as a matter of fact, the couple of people that were bringing this to their attention either quit, got fired, or the group that they were working on was disbanded. This is internal Facebook documents. So this is not in question anymore. And it's not about throwing everything to the parents and saying it's all your guys' fault. It's like, at some point, if you're putting this out there and you're putting this in front of our children, you do have some responsibility for what's happening on the platform.
Okay,
that's
so
what they're trying to
Bitcoin. You don't blame people that use Bitcoin to smuggle drugs because that's their fault. But Bitcoin makes it easy to smuggle drugs. We can agree on that. It's easier than a lot of other things. So Meta, why are you blaming Meta when it's
there's no algorithm? There's no algorithm in the cryptocurrency.
But there's a blockchain that makes it a little bit easier to smuggle drugs.
I want to finish. There's no algorithm that is pushing people to do this. There's no algorithm that's showing you how easy it is to make it happen. You're always going to have people that abuse whatever services you have in front of you. But it's different when the algorithm itself is causing these things to happen. And that's what people are complaining about. And I'm telling you, in the 2018 study that they did, this is when the algorithm changed to become what it was. They made the choice to switch to engagement. Before, it was a little bit more balanced, but when they made the change for the sake of profitability to focus the algorithm on engagement, keeping people on the platform, that is when you started to see.
Charles, what do you expect them to do? They need to make money. Like Twitter legitimately is accepting ads. I talked about this on the podcast a week ago.
Right.
There was an entire porn video. Remember that joke I made where a 45-minute video was an ad? It was an entire like Pornhub video.
Okay.
What do you think Elon's doing? He's getting as much money as he can.
What age did you put in when you created your Twitter account?
No, Carlos, that doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Any kid could sign up and lie.
But my question is,
and get that ad in their feed. That's my point.
But if a kid is lying, if a kid's putting that in and they're lying, then they're circumventing the first piece. But this is another reason why.
That's what they do on Instagram.
This is another reason why. But okay, so then you're saying so if a kid's gonna go there and lie, then the social media company should just say, well, they lied. It's not on me.
That's exactly that is literally the definition of section 230.
This is why you have this is why you get ahead of this and you say we're going to have an age verification. I can't go online right now and buy, you buy a pack of cigarettes or buy vape shit without showing a picture of my ID.
Wait, but my question is, why aren't you blaming
Why
Elon
can't
then?
you
Why
have an
aren't you
age
blaming Elon?
verification thing that forces people to put up an ID?
Why don't you blame
Or have
Elon
parents
if
that
kids
they're
are
accountable?
lying to get on Twitter, TikTok, or Snapchat or Instagram? Why is the blame going to Zucks and not Elon as well?
Because they are the largest social media platform, and by and large, those two platforms are
What
the
does that have-
those two platforms are the ones that are the most egregious offenses. Those are
Dude,
the
I got a porn video as an advertisement for 45 minutes. I don't I've never seen that on Instagram.
You're not understanding. This is not just about seeing a porn video, dude. This is about you making an account and a bunch of 40-year-old men finding you and grooming you.
You don't think that's not happening on Twitter?
No. Listen to what I'm saying. So, but you keep bringing up that you're seeing porn. That's not what this is about. It's like you don't even
sex trafficking,
understand.
I get it.
You don't
think
even
sex
understand
trafficking-
what the argument is, and you're trying to like
No.
run interference
I
for
agree.
yourself,
You
but
don't think you do
even
not think sex
understand what
trafficking
the
is happening
actual
on Twitter.
complaint is, and it's very easy to just say, "Well, I don't understand, so I saw porn, and so it's not."
No, that's not my argument.
And
So
I just want to make my money, and like it's.
You're
very-
saying are you saying sex
Oh,
trafficking is
no
not
doubt.
happening on Twitter? Is that your argument? It's not
What?
happening on Twitter. You think sex
What?
trafficking is not happening on Twitter?
I don't know what the stats.
You don't
are.
think there's
I
a
don't
1,000
know.
40-year-old guys trying to prey
I-
on little
I
girls
don't
on-
know. I don't know. If I'm
Carlos,
presented
come
with the
on,
data,
bro. Come
if I'm
on,
presented-
dude.
I don't know. Do you have the data? Is it happening?
Dude, at some level, you've
you
got
have
to
the
stop
data?
praising
Do
Elon as like
wait,
the god. There is
I'm
bad
not-
stuff that
I'm not
happens on
saying-
Twitter.
Hold on. I am not saying that Twitter is perfect. But what I'm saying is what we're seeing happening on Facebook and particularly Instagram. Instagram seems to be the real one. That is a real fucking problem. And they are not doing anything about it because they're donating. They're either donating money to with political contributions or they're paying lobbyists. This is why nothing will happen. A lot of what you saw today is a bunch of just fucking theater. Nothing's going to happen until there are massive fines or payouts that need to be made and or criminal charges. Nothing's going to happen. And guess what? Nothing's going to happen at Facebook either. No one's going to get fired. It's going to be business as fucking usual. That's the real problem with this whole thing is that every once in a while it comes back into light and it's never seen.
I get it. I agree with you. My beef is that you are exclusively blaming Facebook.
Because that's the one who's sitting in front of Congress right now. I did not hear
So is
them.
Linda.
I did not hear them. No, but I did not hear them saying, and this is what's happening on Twitter. If they have evidence and they say this is what happens on Twitter when a 13-year-old starts an account, and this is what we're seeing, I would absolutely say that needs to be taken to task. You know, back to Steve's Steve's point. If you have all of this AI that can detect all of this stuff, and you can unleash this AI to squeeze $20 billion more out of your current ad model, how do you not have the technology to recognize that content and also have a way of verifying someone's age and also have a way of preventing that content from happening? How is that possible?
Okay, Steve, what are your thoughts? Who do you agree with? Who do you agree with? Do you think this is an exclusive Instagram problem, or do you think all these companies are the problem and Carlos blaming Elon or Carlos blaming Zucks is short-sighted?
I don't have enough information, nor is this something I really want to discuss. I mean,
Oh, we're discussing it. We're here. We're having the hard conversation.
I'm
It's
not a
good
parent.
discussion.
I'm not a parent, so I really am not a good person to speak on that aspect. And I go back to, I would think, and I'm not a lawyer, but child abuse is probably illegal, correct?
Correct. These platforms are
Okay,
obviously
so
showing
it's
bad stuff.
probably illegal, right?
Correct.
Okay. So if it's illegal, how is it that one of the most powerful companies in the world and one of the most technologically advanced companies in the world with some of the best back-end tech cannot stop it before it happens? Because
Okay,
somebody,
but Steve, the question is, do you think it's happening only on Meta, or do you
Stop,
think it's happening
stop,
everywhere?
Stop. Somebody is posting it, correct? In order for it to get there, somebody has to post it. So these companies, Meta, whether it's Meta, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it is, I don't know. But they should have the tools to stop it before it actually goes out into the cyberspace.
I agree. Okay, so you said nothing right there. Okay, so my question is, the debate here is this a Zucks thing or this is an all companies thing? And I think it's all companies.
What you're doing is what you're saying is if it happens on every other platform, then no one's accountable. I'm asking.
No, everyone's accountable. That's what I'm saying.
All right, so then say it's all of them. If it's all of them and they're all equal, do you finally accept that it is a fucked up business practice to be doing this, to be allowing this content, to be projecting this content, amplifying it, and to be allowing people?
Well, Carlos, that begs the question: do you think it's fucked up to show Hamas killing Jewish people on Twitter and not censoring that? Do you think it's fucked up? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, so how is literally
Here's why.
beheading someone
You
like
make a stupid argument all the time. Here's the difference. If
There's
Hamas is committing an atrocity against on other people, and you want the world to respond to that, the worst thing you can do is keep it hidden. You have to show people the horror of what's happening so the world can get enraged and actually make a stand against evil that is happening in the world. It's horrible news, and nobody wants to see that. But if you see that and you're aware of what's happening, you at least can then lobby, and you can make a push to have that changed. You can push your local leaders and your state leaders and your federal government to make a change in that area. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about content that is like shocking. We're not talking about content that is like that would be considered
Dude, I'm not talking about shocking. I'm talking about people beheading people. That's a different thing.
We're not talking about that. I understand that the content is shocking content, but that's not the same thing as a kid starting an account and getting in their within a week, getting in their DMs. I mean, there were studies that show like literally a kid like 13 years old from the minute within starting an account, they'll have like seven or eight DMs within the first couple of hours, let alone the first couple of weeks of people trying to groom them and trying to talk to them.
Hey,
How fucked up these people are. And they're actually trying to prey on kids. Now, what I'm saying is, if and when you have a kid, the idea that you would allow your kid on a platform and have somebody else trying to prey on them, you will not see a difference between whether it's done on social media or done in real life.
But why would I let my kid on the platform? That goes back to the parents.
Both you guys, hold on. How is it that there are not safeguards where no adults can message a kid? How is it that these accounts are not flagged? Like, there's serious fucking problems here. Like, the only
to answer your question, Steve, there are a lot of safeguards. Zucks has about 200,000 moderators they employ worldwide. I've actually done so. They pay them like $28,000 a year in Arkansas. Like, there's a lot of moderation, but they have billions of posts a second. All right, stuff slips through. So does it slip through on Twitter and TikTok. It's very difficult.
Okay,
and
so
how are they
better? I
with
mean, look,
all that billions of content that's coming in? How are they able to, in real time, know the exact ad to serve the exact person? How are they able to?
Because they have a really good ad model. I'm just saying it's really hard to get. Like, there's beheading on Facebook too. There's killing on Facebook. They just get rid of it.
Instead of pushing ads, if you tweak the algorithm to stop this content in the same way, or to look for these sorts of patterns, to see patterns and things that we might not be able to see. Hey, this person's of this age, or this is the content that this person's searching. And to Ted Cruz's point, this is someone who's on Instagram searching for child abuse video, and the warning itself is saying this may contain images of child sexual abuse. So they're aware that that content exists and that it's on their platform, and they're saying to you, this may contain this. So they're trying to protect you from seeing it, not the person who's suffering it. They're trying to protect you from seeing it. And there's a button that says see the results anyway. Like,
no, I agree with that. I agree that should be changed. I'm just saying all of his blame going on Zucks is ridiculous. It's a good moment for Ted Cruz.
But it's who they but it's who they were talking to. It was his moment to face the fucking fire. So we can talk about the other social media companies, and Snapchat's honestly no better. I mean, the whole Snapchat disappearing messages.
None of it's better. That's what I'm saying. You can't go out. You can't rant against Zucks.
Your point is, what's the big deal? It's everybody. Why just basically do nothing? Basically,
not do nothing. Not do nothing. You should do stuff.
Then what do you do? What do you think should be done?
I wouldn't show that that thing that Ted Cruz says about see results anyway. I would invest a lot more money, which is what Zuck said they're going to do today, to make sure that if it's legitimate bad stuff, there is no see results. It's just banned. Like, for example, you can't search porn on Instagram. Like, you literally can't type in, or on YouTube. I mean, you can, but like on Instagram, it's more like they immediately get rid of that. Same thing with TikTok. You can't search suicide on TikTok. They like give you the help resources, all that stuff.
I mean, how about this?
But it's not perfect. It's not perfect.
Code words. People have code words.
Should not be on the site, and anybody who is trying to upload them, the authorities should investigate them.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, the only charities that I'm donating to at the moment are child abuse and human trafficking. There are two. I can't even watch the movie Sound of Freedom. Like, I'll freak out and cry. Like, those are the things that get me the most fucking pissed off. And for me to learn that this shit is out there on Instagram or Facebook or whatever pisses me off. Really.
Bro, I was on Twitter. I was on Twitter watching the videos, the body camera videos of the people at the border. Oh my God. It's worse than what you saw in Sound of Freedom. like a bunch of.
No, I won't watch the movie.
Oh,
I
no,
won't
it's-
watch it because I will break down.
The movie's
crying
actually
the whole thing.
not that bad. The movie's not that bad in terms of like what.
Carlos, let me ask you this question. What percentage out of 100 would you give the blame to the parent versus the algorithm if their kid sees bad stuff on Facebook?
The algorithm?
Because I would do 70-30. I think that's reasonable. 70% parent, 30% algo.
Oh, no, not at all.
Really?
No.
You
no,
don't.
no.
What happened to personal accountability, dude? Like that's
Because
you can't take 70% of the accountability as a parent.
Because it's not the same. You have to understand it. The world that we live in right now is fundamentally more and more being based on social interactions, and these social interactions more and more are happening digitally. So there's a certain level of as a parent, you cannot completely take your kid out of that.
Why?
You can't completely pull
Why?
because you can't. It's
Why?
literally everywhere. Literally everywhere. Whether even
Don't give them a phone.
even in my kids' daycare, they'll have iPads there because they
Get them at a different daycare so they can't go on Safari and type in some bullshit.
I'm done. Let's move on.
No, but this is a good conversation.
I want to have a debate about this, but your arguments just are so.
It's not me, dude. Look at Michael Wilder in the chat. Who gave them the phone? Like, it's not just me, Carlos. There's a Boba the dog. Don't give them the phone.
Yeah,
Like,
don't give them the phone. All right, great. You go have kids, and you tell me how easy that's going to be to keep your kid away from any and all phones till the age of 18. Good luck with that.
No, not 18. I would say around 15, and you have a ton of guidelines. Like, yeah, but these kids, dude, I got a phone in 5th grade. Now, thankfully, there was no social media, so my parents didn't have to worry. But by the time social media came out, and these girls that are getting it at 11, you don't think that's the parents' fault more than the kid getting a phone at 11 years old?
Okay, you don't understand how. Okay, you can not give your kid a phone if you think that your kid's never going to be in front of a phone because you don't give them a phone. Especially when they get to the age that they start hanging out in groups, or they start doing events, or they start going to classes, or they get to the age that they go over to each other's houses or go out alone. If you think that you not giving them a phone is the end all be all, then that is ridiculous.
I'll give them a pager.
It is ridiculous. Think about how
It'll be super cool when the shape beats.
Think about yourself as a kid and how much you were able to get away with that. Your parents to this day still probably don't even know. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
but
saying?
no, but my mom raised me with some fucking self-esteem, dude. So when I saw a guy with a 6-pack, I wasn't like, oh my God, I don't have a 6-pack. I was just like, okay, I need to work hard to get a. I need to like.
Once again,
like, I didn't have these self-esteem issues because I was raised.
What you're doing is you're making a caricature of my argument. Like some kid sees a guy with a 6-pack and starts crying. This is why I don't want to have this debate, because you're not being serious. What you're saying is some kid sees a 6-pack and goes, oh, I don't want to. That's not what this is, dude. You have no idea how these are tools that people that want to do horrible things to kids.
I'm not talking about the child abuse. No, I agree with you. I'm talking about Jonathan Haidt's study.
Are using
read Jonathan Haidt's study. I'm not talking about child predator. You and me are aligned on that. Jonathan Haidt's study. I know you read it. 13 to 18-year-olds, they feel literally in the study. He's like, when they see a woman with a voluptuous body and they're skinny because they're going through puberty, and they don't really have their body formed, they start to feel all these self-esteem issues. They see Kim Kardashian, all this stuff. She has 200 million followers. They have 20 followers. He says that's Instagram's fault. I'm just like, nah, dude, that's the parents for not getting the kid to feel.
How does anyone know who Kim Kardashian is right now? How would you know who she is without social media and without the media putting her out in your face all day?
You can't avoid the media.
But I'm saying, how would you know who she is if it wasn't for social media?
I mean, she has a Hulu show.
Who are the people that are following her? Are they all bots? Or are they real people following her?
I would say some of them are bots.
And the money that she's making, is it fake money or is it real money? She's really making money.
Dude, all I'm saying is if you see Kim Kardashian with a fake ass and you're a 13-year-old girl or 14-year-old girl, you have to have enough self-esteem raised by your parents that, oh, you don't need plastic surgery to be successful in life.
I hope you have kids one day and you understand.
I'm gonna have kids one day, and I'm gonna make sure they're not like afraid if they see some random Instagram model.
You can make sure. You make sure. What do you mean make sure? Could you?
I'm gonna raise them the right way. Like,
okay, fine.
And so will you. You're gonna raise your girl the right way too. I know you.
Because first of all, you're 26 years old and you don't have any kids, and your arguments are basically making characters or straw manning what I'm saying to make it seem like it's silly to even bring it up in the first place. I am 100% convinced that within our lifetime, we're going to see the actual end result of this play out, and we're going to look back and say, "Fuck, man, the signs were there." And honestly, people like you running interference for guys like Zuck are the reason why this will continue. And people that want to just say, I'm going to turn a blind eye. I'm going to allow Meta to do things that I would never allow in my real life because I want to invest in them and I want to make a bunch of money.
First of all, I don't invest in Meta. Second of all, I just wouldn't have my kids on Instagram. It's just not that complicated to me. It's just
okay. If you think that it's just that simple, really, you think it's just that simple, don't give your kid a phone. Okay.
So what's the percentage you put on the algorithm? What's the percentage of blame you put on the algorithm?
Say 85%. I think it's 85% the algorithm. That's what I think.
Steve, what would you do if you had to do parent to algorithm? Yeah, and guys, this is a heated discussion because it's fun. Like me and Carlos love each other. Like, but it's a fun discussion. So
this is the other
it's
thing.
okay.
This is the other thing. Every time something like this happens, the argument always comes out. It's up to the parents. It's up to the parents. What's happening is social media companies and external forces are now getting in the way of the way parents want to raise their kids. Back in the day when we were younger, when you went home, you were home with your nuclear family, and there was really nothing that was going to penetrate that. There was no way for any outside force to access your nuclear family. Now there is so many things that come in and infiltrate that, whether it's social media or the type of programming that you're seeing, even on, say, Disney, when it's supposed to be, even if you set the parental settings. I saw a video the other day, this woman who's like, I set the parental settings too high on Netflix, and she happened to catch a video that her daughter was watching, and it was some video, but this little spider or whatever. And halfway through the movie, this movie that's made for kids, this little spider is like getting excited, and they're basically getting sexual. The spider is like getting sexual, and so you have to say to yourself, like, as a parent, am I supposed to pre-screen every movie that they watch when I've set the parental settings to high, and this is a movie that's being pushed out by Netflix as being said it's safe for kids? I mean, do you understand? Like, this is what's happening. And so if you just keep putting it on parents who are out there working and trying to provide for their families, it's basically an easy cop out to say, well, now it's just the parents' problem because we gotta make our profit and we can't tweak the algorithm. I've told you before, Facebook could be incredibly profitable and not have an algorithm that does that. They can just
okay. So my question for you then is, what do you want the algorithm to do? Do you want them to not show like Kim Kardashian? How do you want them? Forget the child predation stuff. You and me agree with it. There's no disagreement there. I'm talking about the Jonathan Haidt study where the girl looks at Kim Kardashian. She's like, oh, I don't have an ass that big. What do you want them to do about those girls that want to kill themselves after doing that? Like, how do you want Facebook to react?
Well, I think to Steve's point, I think it's very easy for those algorithms to capture and eliminate that material. I also think that there needs to be incredibly stiff penalties for the people that are involved in that. Say you are somebody that that partakes in that that content, or you're somebody that does solicit somebody who's younger. There should be really heavy penalties. But at the same time, people at the tech companies should be held accountable for these things. There should be massive fines, and the fines should get exponentially more expensive.
My question is on Kim Kardashian, when she makes a post that is sexual, how much distribution should she get?
It's a little hard to say now because we're already so deep into it.
But no, let's say a regulation passes tomorrow. You're the one who wants all this change. I'm just asking you for something so simple. How do they censor women from posting about themselves so that girls don't get depressed?
No, you don't censor that. I'm not saying that you outwardly censor Kim Kardashian. But what you do in an algorithm is you try to say have a balanced feed. If you're going to show somebody something Kim Kardashian, show somebody something else that is maybe not related to that. Maybe something that's not all about just being physically beautiful and having a big fake ass. Or honestly, even something like community notes. A lot of these kids don't even realize that some of this stuff is either filters, right, or heavily doctored. And they're looking at this thinking that this is actually attainable. And so when you're that young and that impressionable and you see yourself in the mirror and you don't look that way, you don't know that there's a filter. Maybe there's something that you should have to post if the image has been doctored. The image has had a certain number of filters put on. Do you get what I'm saying? Just so that you know that what you're looking at is like kind of AI generated and not a real person. Those sorts of things.
You honestly believe those will change the way we think about?
No, in the current model, I don't know that there's much you can do because the current model is going to be tweaked for that engagement. I think the way to do it is to go to a subscription model where they don't have to.
What are your thoughts?
Doesn't have to do that. That's what I think.
The chat is amazing.
I love that everyone's like, can we move on? But no one's left. All 450 people are here. No one's left, but they're like, oh, can we move on? Can we get out of here? All right. Well, look, we'll move on. I think we can agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, my take is that the child predatory stuff, Zucks needs to harp on that and change that. And eventually, I think they will. I think they're investing a lot of money. I think it's hard to do, but I think they will do that.
What about the political election interference, the censorship, the weaponization of the terms mis and disinformation to deplatform?
Dude, those are so broad. I don't even know. Because again, when you say political stuff, does Trump not get to tweet? What exactly? You got to let everything be free. And if they didn't do that in 2016, then
under the previous administration, and I'm saying at Twitter, Trump was banned.
Well, so I disagree with that. I don't think Trump should be banned. 100%. I don't agree with any of that. And so I think Facebook should be more free speech. The problem is on Facebook, there's 3 billion people, not just 90 million in the United States like Twitter. people are posting so much. Like there's a website called 4chan, which is like the dirtiest stuff on the internet.
That's the Wild West.
People are posting that stuff on Facebook, and their algorithms are actually very good. There's a good article on The Verge. There's a moderator in Arizona. She gets paid $40,000 a year. She has to go to therapy that Facebook pays for because she sits here all day deleting shit that she sees that's posted because it's just like the worst, cruel stuff you could see on the planet. They're taking action. It's just the world's getting bigger, and it's very hard to solve this problem. So I think they have to keep investing resources.
This is just like a dipping the toe into the problem that happens with like artificial general intelligence, right? You are bringing 24th century technology to a 21st century civilization. Our little meat brains are not designed to handle some of what we are being exposed to now. And we're seeing some of our biological systems break in that sense. This is what I'm leaning towards. And so for me, yes, the child trafficking stuff is a problem. The solicitation of minors is a problem. The political stuff is a real problem. The demonetization, deplatforming, censorship, disinformation, misinformation, and also the data sharing. Basically, this is what that call looked like to me today. We've all agreed, or I think anybody would agree, that like data is the new oil, right? Like data is the fucking new oil. And he today sounded very much to me like an oil executive up there saying, but we haven't found any studies that, fossil fuels do any harm to the environment. Or like cigarette companies being like, we haven't seen any internal studies that show that cigarettes cause cancer. I mean, that's what it seems
I agree with you. This is big oil. They've got to be regulated. There's got to be more issues. I just don't think we can exclusively blame Zucks. That's the only part where you and I disagree. But I agree. We got to do something. There's no way we can just let these.
I'm not saying, and don't get me wrong, I am not saying to exclusively blame him, but he is the one that started this. He's the one that was the first really truly successful social media platform, and basically laid the foundation for how it was going to go. I mean, and no. Steve,
all right, Steve, what's happening with Amazon tomorrow?
I don't understand why Steve doesn't. Can you just tell me why you never say anything either remotely political?
He's not a political guy.
I have no interest in getting in a political conversation.
There's people in the chat being like, "Oh, he's a liberal. Oh no, he voted for Trump. Oh, he voted for Biden." Like that's crazy.
I don't even know who Steve voted for last cycle. I don't even know.
I would bet that he voted for Biden.
I don't think he voted, to be honest.
I voted for Biden. There's some things he said on today that it made me feel like, oh, he's a total Republican, because fiscally responsible, a personal responsibility. But then he said some stuff that I was no, it's Trump. Oh my God,
Steve, are you afraid of us criticizing you for being white and having an opinion? Is that
No.
You don't have to have an opinion because you're white.
Also, I just want to say something to this chat, dude.
But admit,
wait, no, real quick. Let me just say something to this chat. Me and Carlos have seen each other in person. Okay, I met his kids. A little debate on a podcast is not gonna ruin a friendship, okay? Even if it gets heated. So you guys got to relax a little bit. The reason this show is fun is because we actually disagree. We listen to perspectives, and it gets a little heated. It is what it is. But if you're that scared, then leave. Don't watch the pod. People are like, oh, I'm going to leave. Okay, leave. Okay, like, it's go do something else. But
you know what helped me? Sometimes I feel, because you're like sort of moderating this thing, that you will voice the opinion of everyone. Say some people would say this, right?
Yeah, I'm pushing back against them. Now, part of me believes it, but also part of it is to have a discussion. That's the point.
Yes, but for me, it would be nice to know when you're making that distinction. What does Amit personally believe? And then, hey, what do you say to the people that believe X?
Okay, what I personally believe is 70-30. I genuinely think parents should have more responsibility. And then 30%, yeah, that algorithm's got to get better. But I think parents need to take, and I agree with you here. When my daughter's 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now, it's going to be really hard to get her off social media. I agree with you. I've got to step up as a parent and figure that out. I'm just saying our parents have basically fallen weak, and they're just letting the kids do whatever they want, getting a phone at 11. That part, I'm like, dude, you gotta chill when they're 11 years old. But that's what's happening right now.
Joe Rogan had a whole thing about that. They asked him about that, like, hey, do you let your kids on social media? How do you handle that? And his whole thing was, he's like, there is a social cost to your children if they don't have a phone. If they're the only one that doesn't have a phone, there's a social cost to that. And you invariably could invite some sort of a bullying where they sort of become low men on the totem pole, or they're left out of certain social interactions that only happen. And so it's a fine line that you have to dance, where you want to keep them away from the harmful parts of social media, but you want them to participate in the benefits.
Right. I agree.
I think we're all old enough, like I'm sure Steve and you didn't have access to the internet or social media till you were already a fully formed adult human being, like 20 something years old. You now have this way, and it was amazing. but because you were building on friendships that you already made in real life organically, you really have to understand and put yourself in the mindset of a generation of kids that were raised without any of that backstory. It's a different ball game, and the level of influence that those things have, especially at a young age, it's not.
I agree with you. I 100% agree, dude. And I know as a good parent, I know how you are as a parent. You're going to take a lot of responsibility. It's going to be hard, but
it's going to be real hard. No,
it's going to be really hard.
Myself for that. That's going to be really hard when you're trying to explain to a kid why they can't do something. It's like even now, like I wouldn't think I'd ever let my kid go to someone's house, or I don't even think I would want to have friends visit my house just for the sake of, if something happens, right? While your kid's in my custody, I don't want that problem. But I my entire childhood was like on the streets with my friends or in other people's houses. So this is just something that I'm personally struggling with that. How do I raise them sort of the way that I did and have that same experience of making friends if it's not in the way that I did it?
Kids are doing it today. Yeah. All right, Steve, Amazon. What's going to happen with Amazon? I think Amazon's. No, I'm not going to say it because then if it goes the other way, everyone's going to clip this.
No, say it. You got to say it. Go on the record, man. Go on the record. Say it.
Dude, I kind of think Amazon's going to tank the bed tomorrow.
What?
I kind of think like Google, they're going to tank the bed. Now, this is going to get clipped when they fucking go up 7%.
Wait, but is it because of the Fed meeting? Or just
I don't think their cloud revenue is going to be as much as people. I think their guidance is not going to be like Azure. And I think the street's going to be like, well, your retail margins suck. Your advertising is okay, but your fucking cloud business is not growing the way we need it to grow. And I think they're going to tank it for some reason. Now, it's a gut feeling. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Steve, what do you think is going to happen?
I think you're crazy.
You think they're going to crush? You think they're going to crush? Look, I hope they crush. I don't own any Amazon. Why do you think, do you think AWS is growing at the levels the street needs it to grow at? Is my question. Microsoft's at 30%.
Did you see what they did last quarter?
What was the growth rate? Well,
inflation's lower right now, right?
Yeah, but what was the growth rate on the cloud?
Hold on. Inflation's lower, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Their input costs are going to be less. They're probably spending a little bit less on CapEx. They're probably generating more cash from operations from their business. They're probably going to come out with more free cash flow, probably going to come out with bigger net income. And if you look at what Microsoft did and you look at what Google or Azure did and you look at what Google Cloud did, it's hard to see a situation where AWS didn't expand also.
But all the stuff you're saying, Google did all of that, but they missed one metric and then they got tanked. My thing is Amazon can do everything you're saying. If they don't put up reasonable cloud growth, why is the street going to give them the
Doesn't Amazon's story is not about AWS growth anymore. Okay, AWS is this business segment that kept them afloat and was the only segment that was making money. Now, North America is back in the black and international is almost back in the black. Now it's a story of everything firing in all cylinders, and that's what we pretty much saw last quarter. We need a expansion on that, and if we get that, they're going to put up a massive beat. And they should hopefully come out with very good guidance because input costs should be a lot less.
I don't know if input costs are the reason for good guidance. They have to prove there's enough demand on AI cloud.
Have you looked at what they spend on generating their revenue?
No, it's a lot. I know.
Do you look at the income statement?
Yeah, they spent 126 billion last quarter off 143 billion. I know they spend a lot of money. I get it.
Yeah,
and that will help their free cash flow. But I'm talking about a growth story, given its stock's already up so much.
They're a low margin business. Okay.
On the e-commerce side, correct.
But that's the majority of their business.
I get it. That's why I'm saying the cloud has to grow at 25 to 30% like Microsoft. Like if they're going to be compared against Azure and it's growing at 10 or 12%, that's the only question I'm pointing at you. Why would the street
pull up this chart while he's talking? It's Amazon's year-on-year growth of Amazon Web Services from first quarter 2014 to third quarter.
So what was Q3? Go to Q3 2023. What was
Q3 2023?
It's growing at 12% year over year.
Year.
What, Steve? If they guide for 15%, is that good enough for the street to get excited?
I'm not. AWS is not the most important thing anymore.
What AWS?
What are you talking about, Steve? Then what matters? Then it's not the advertising.
AWS is not the most important thing anymore. You're going to see them talk about
AI
ad revenue. You're going to see them talk about other things. AWS is part of the story, but it's not the most important anymore.
Dude, There's ad revenue that they're going to crush on. That's going to be great. And then there's going to be the retail e-commerce margins that unless they got those up at least 1%, they're not going to be great. We know that. So then what the fuck is left? It's cloud. And that's the AI story. What am I missing here? Tell me. It's AI, it's cloud, ads, and e-commerce. What else is left? Like, do you guys think they're going to get premium because of Twitch ads, because of Prime ads? Do you think that's going to give them the multiple? I don't think that's. And the $3 thing is factored into next quarter, not this quarter.
It's not about the multiple. It's about them becoming more profitable. It's about them generating more earnings. Amazon's always been a company that trades at a very high multiple. They need to bring that down. The way they bring that down is by producing more profitability. The way that they do that is by increasing revenue and decreasing costs.
I agree.
Spent $60 billion for 2 years on CapEx, building everything out. They need to drop CapEx. They need input costs to be down. When raw materials are down, gas is down, everything else is down. You got to remember, they're running one of the largest supply chains in the world. Okay. The input costs are killing them.
Yeah, but Steve, the stock has already gone up a lot, is what I'm trying to say.
No, but
I'm
look,
talking about
to Steve's point, it's generating.
You're not getting it.
1.2. The most.
No, I am getting it. They have a 57 PE. You're saying if they're more profitable, that PE is going to come down because it's going to become a much more meaningful business given the growth rate. My question is, it's already up a lot.
Go back
over the past 2
to
months.
Carlos. Go back to that. AWS is such a small thing.
Yeah,
for
but
their
it's
business.
a high margin thing. That's my point.
It's the highest margin thing, but it's a very low percentage of their overall revenue.
But if you're talking about net income, you need the highest thing with the best
my
operating
God.
margin to help their net income. That's what I'm saying. You'll be right if their margins on e-commerce go up.
Can you stop talking and interrupting?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Please explain.
Like, you think that winning a debate is interrupting people? That's not how you
No,
win a
Steve.
debate.
I'm trying to get an argument. I'm trying to understand why.
Okay.
If AWS is not as growing as much as you think it is, what gets their?
I'm
PE
not
to go
saying it's
down?
not growing as much as I think it is. I think it's going to grow just fine. It's been their largest profit center. It will continue to be their largest profit center. But for Amazon to rip, everything else needs to fire. And that's what we're starting to see with commodity prices coming down, with raw materials coming down, and with more people using their platform. It's a combination of all things. And then bringing in advertising, increasing the price of Prime. These are all things to the story that will help drive operating profit and net income. Like, it's got to be everything. It can't just be AWS. AWS is what kept them afloat for a very long time. It's not going to be the sole driver to get them to go higher. For them to go higher, everything needs to work.
Well, question for them: what input costs are going to come down? What input costs here on this list are going to come down? Because they're already, if you look at this, their revenue is 143 billion, and the cost of those sales is 75. That's still pretty good to have a $68 billion profit. Like, what's going to get cut here? Where are these prices coming down? What's coming down for them?
So when I say the input costs, I'm talking about the operating costs for running the facilities, electricity costs, gas costs, for transportation, for their supply chain, everything up and down the line. It's not just squeezing margins out on what they're charging on the products, because when you look at where gas prices are and electricity prices, and you think about their overall infrastructure throughout the world, those operating expenses are very important. And every time that those can be lowered, their operating margin gets better.
But
Like,
why
that's
is it
very
going down
important.
this quarter? That's what Carlos is saying. Why would it have come down? Like, what's the reason?
Like for an example, with Tesla, you can look at the price of lithium and you go, "Oh, lithium's coming down. That's the biggest."
Yes.
part of the car.
What's
That's
the
gonna
lithium
make
example here?
So are they going to make more money? So, like, what's that equivalent for Amazon?
Well, the equivalent for Amazon is going to be inflation, because the goods that they're buying are going to be a little bit less. They're going to spend a little bit less money. Electricity coming down, gas prices coming down. All those inputs.
Gas prices were high in October and November. What are you talking about? September, October, gas prices were high.
But you got to think year on year. It's not quarter. They're going to judge Q4 over Q4 2022. They're not judging it quarter over quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'll eat my words tomorrow. I don't know if lowering CapEx is what the street wants versus AWS and AI growth.
It isn't. No,
I don't know.
it isn't as sexy, but it's still
Look, I hope you're right. I don't have a dog in this. I'm just making the argument to make the argument.
But when you look at what they compare year-over-year results.
Dude, Google is up phenomenally year over year, but they missed on the one thing the street cared about, which is AI advertising revenue, and the street tanked them. Microsoft didn't miss on anything, and they had an AI story. And all these stocks have run up 70%. But all I'm saying here, the stock's up 70% in the past 8 months. It's got to expand the multiple, or at least decrease the PE.
Everything needs to work. If you go through their actual presentation and look at how much AWS carried the stock for the past year, you need everything else to work for it to keep going. If retail sales come in bad on the e-commerce side, this thing's going nowhere tomorrow.
Yeah, but I disagree. If AWS, they're guiding for 30% growth, this thing's going to 180 tomorrow. I solely think if AWS growth comes in high and not 13% year over year, but matches Azure, that means it's a two-dogged race with Azure and AWS coming for AI spend. And we know AI is growing in importance and the spend is there. So I think it kind of really does depend on AWS. I'm surprised you don't think it does.
This is interesting. These are their top clients. These are serious clients.
No, they're going to make a ton of money on AWS. The question is going to be, are they going to guide for real growth in AWS because of AI cloud spend? That is my question. The street, is Amazon an AI play or not? I think that's what the street wants to figure out. And if they don't feel it's an AI play, I don't know if decreasing CapEx is the biggest thing.
Chamath was talking about that on the All In podcast. He was saying how there's a difference between an AI company and an AI enabled company, right? And so something like Amazon, just because you're using AI, it doesn't mean you're an AI company. And to your point, I think that's what Wall Street's trying to figure out. Are you a company that's truly an AI play because we feel that that's the future? Or are you just a company that is effectively using AI to run your business more efficiently?
Yeah, Steve, I'm just saying this because the S&P is at all-time highs. We have to be cautious here. We're not at 440 on the S&P.
And that's why I'm saying everything needs to work for Amazon to go up. It's not just going to go up if AWS is great and everything else sucks.
What do you think is going to happen then, Steve?
I think they're going to beat on everything and it's going to go up. But I think it's going to be because everything's working. I think it's going to be because they're going to have top-line growth. I think they're going to have better margins. And I think they're going to have more profitability and more free cash flow. But that story only plays out if every one of their businesses works. If the e-commerce and the advertising and all those things don't work and AWS kills, I don't think it goes anywhere.
I think it does, dude. I think that because that's the highest. I agree with you. It'll be, the numbers will get tricky because the PE will be annoyingly high. But if that's the growth, they're not putting up 30% growth on that. But if they did,
I'll take the other side.
Dude, if they grow AWS 30%, this stock's going to 200.
AWS is such a small thing of the business. I'll bring up the presentation.
I don't get how you
made him do it. Look what you did. You made him do it.
What are you talking about? AWS is their high. They did $70 billion of revenue last year on AWS. And everything else that they did not make a profit, or it made a 1 to 2% margin.
That was his point. It was carrying the company. But
absolutely, it is the thesis. I was arguing about this with someone today. They're like, "Oh, it's advertising and it's e-commerce." I was like, "E-commerce until they get the margins up, which maybe they do tomorrow. That's great. That's dead. Advertising is great, but that's not the thesis. It's not fucking Facebook. It's AWS."
All right, let's go through their Q3 report. Net sales overall Q3 $143 billion. Okay. TTM 550 billion. Operating income, that's crazy that's that low, but okay. On the TTM, so on $550 billion, their operating income is 26 billion.
Right,
that's not a great margin.
Correct.
Okay,
but my question is, what increases the margin? Is it AWS or is it e-commerce?
I'm not going to say it again. North America, okay. This is on a quarterly basis. Finally got profitable again on an operating income basis in Q1 and kept getting better. International is still losing money. It's basically break even right now. AWS has been the thing that has really kept them afloat. If I went back on probably Q4 2022, it would show how this was the only unit that was keeping Amazon afloat. But the operating income is not growing that much. It grew quarter over quarter here, but it's been pretty stagnant for the previous 4 quarters. Okay. You need their largest drivers of revenue to have better margins and generate more operating income. North America is only generating 4.3 billion in operating income from how much in sales? 88 billion. Like, you need that to be a better margin. And then when you look at free cash flow is at 21 billion on 550 billion revenue on a TTM basis. Like, you need CapEx to come down to push this number much higher. I believe, and I think it's on one of these slides, that free cash flow used to be in the 30-40 billion range. Like, they were negative on a TTM basis before these before these last 2 quarters. Like, you need this to go down. Like, they're spending so much on their CapEx, it is crazy.
Okay, so my question is, if CapEx goes down, which I agree with you, there's a chance it goes down, even though I don't know why exactly it would go down, but let's say it does.
Well, because they've already made all the capital investments into building out their supply chain. Like, that's where the CapEx is going.
Okay, so that's fair. But at the same time, AWS really doesn't guide for anything that great. Maybe advertising guides kind of low. Do you think the street's flat on that? Because you're not really growing, even if you have your CapEx come down.
Look, I think AWS is going to be good because I think there's a lot of need for future cloud, but you need all these other things to occur, and more free cash flow. It's going to allow them to actually buy back shares, something Amazon has not been doing. It's going to get them to do things that companies that generate the type of revenue that they do typically does. I mean, Amazon's not a young company, and they're still trading as a hyper growth company. Their margins have not been good. We all know that. They need to decrease their CapEx. They need to decrease their operating costs, or keep them at bay and grow the top line on all the areas to increase profitability, because that's going to bring the PE down and make people be like, holy shit, this is a great buy right now. Like, they need to get profitability to boost. That's the biggest thing right now.
Can you share this? Can you share this one?
Real quick, let me just read the stocks to investors. Ad business will go 30%, AWS 16%. If they do that, I think even if CapEx doesn't go down meaningfully, the stock's going to go up. Those are great numbers.
Yeah,
I just don't know if that'll happen.
Building on the ad business
This is what's expected. It really only matters if they hit or if they hit or miss the expectations. Analysts expect the company to report a net income of 8.59 billion and EPS of 83 cents, up sharply from 278 million and 3 cents respectively. They estimate revenue at 166 billion, earnings per share at 83, and net income to be 8.5.
Why do they expect EPS to be lower than Q3's EPS, Steve? Is there a reason for that? And net income.
Wait, why
are those so low compared to Q3? That's weird.
No, but it's up from Q4 2022.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
It's up from Q4. It's up.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
From Q4 2022. Another key metric investors should watch for is Amazon's net sales for AWS. The company's calculating AWS is to some degree a measure of Amazon's success in navigating the recent surge, blah, blah, blah. Analysts predict that AWS net sales will climb by about 13% year over year to a record of 20.
So if they come in at 17-18% guidance, maybe that also.
It was 12%. Yeah, it was 12% last Q4. So
Frugal Buck says, how much is AI going to bring down costs in the retail business? I agree. If AI actually, if that's the reason versus just inflation coming down, decreases their CapEx, I mean, that also is incredible. But I don't know if they're going to guide for that or if that's actually going to happen.
Well, they'll tell you.
I mean, we'll find out tomorrow.
And that could be a multi-year thing to play out. I mean,
Correct.
There's a lot of levers that they can pull to optimize their back-end services in the warehousing and fulfillment area. So I think that's going to be an overall story, and that's what I would want to hear. You got to remember, Jassy was the guy at AWS. He's the tech guy. Okay, he's not Bezos. He's the tech guy. So I want to hear on the call him talking about how they're going to offer the tools for their clients to build and become more efficient with AI through their AWS services, and how Amazon is going to utilize those tools and other tools that they're working on to become more efficient in their e-commerce business and help generate more ROI on every dollar.
All right, it'll be exciting to see. Meta, Amazon. Well, we didn't talk about Apple. Do you guys think Apple's going to shit the bed tomorrow?
I think Apple's the sleeper of the fucking whole crew.
Do you think they're going to do good on earnings tomorrow?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about
Dude,
that.
they're coming off the holiday season. Yes, they're going to do very good. Like, think about this. Services, I think, I got to look at the thing I put together. Services is going to be a 100 billion revenue business segment, I think, in 2025. Think about that. They built that from nothing in like 2014 or 2015. It's going to be a 100 billion revenue run rate. Like, that's crazy.
It's not that crazy, dude. Like you say these big numbers and you act like it's crazy. The stock's not growing. I mean, the company's not growing. They have a negative year-over-year growth in top line revenue. So yeah, that one segment is great, but
dude, they've had negative growth before and then come back and added a ton after. This is a company that's generating $100 billion in profits.
That's a lot.
Don't sleep on AI and don't sleep on VR AR. Apple is.
I'm definitely sleeping on VR AR. That thing is a flop, in my opinion. That thing's a fucking flop, dude. That thing is...
But you also don't see anything transcending screens. Like, that's where
I saw this video of someone having all this spatial computing. I'm like, oh, so that's a laptop with multiple tabs. You pay $3,500 to have a shittier keyboard that you're typing. You're like you're a magician playing fucking magical piano. Like, dude, it's bad.
You have a regular keyboard. You plug in a. It's a regular keyboard.
It's the demos I've seen are horrendous. This is not worth.
You're not a sports guy. You're not an entertainment guy. Like, that's just not what you do.
That's the point. I should be able to adapt regardless of what I do.
No, but let me finish. The goggles that they are doing, the Vision Pro, this generation, they were only expecting 200,000 units to be sold. 600,000 units ended up getting sold. Okay, sold out in the pre-order.
That's not exciting.
This is the tip of the iceberg. Eventually, it's going to be second, third gen. It's going to be much smaller. It's going to be like the glasses we're wearing on our faces. And
it's not. I disagree with that.
But to Steve's point, if they actually did so,
hold on. When you look at the video and you saw what they were doing, where he can go into Apple TV and pull the screen and make it as big as they want with perfect vision, perfect clarity. This is going to transcend screens for entertainment and video games and probably computing also. To think that we're going to live our lives on screens the way they are is crazy. It's crazy. I will personally buy one when it's a little smaller, or if Carlos says that it is comfortable, don't worry about it, to watch something for 2 hours. Because I would much rather sit there. Like, I can lay in bed and not disturb my wife and watch a fucking basketball game. Okay, with that thing.
Why can't you do that with the TV on? If she's sleeping, she's not going to see the light on her. She's turned on to the side. The TV's on.
Oh, it's different. No, it's different. It's different, and that's something that
you can put in headphones, dude.
That's something that you can do with the. That's something you can do with the Meta Quest now. Okay, if they were at price parity, $500 each device, I think it's clear the Vision Pro is going to be the killer. The thing is, people are saying, "Oh, but it's it's 7 times more expensive. You could buy 7 Meta Quests for a Vision Pro. Is it worth the money? It's going to be a first generation new Apple product, And we've seen a bunch of first generation Apple products. It's very ambitious. I don't think that we've seen the actual killer app or the killer use case yet.
We haven't yet.
Not yet.
I don't think there is a use case. That's my thing, guys. I don't think this is a problem that this is a solution looking for a problem. That's what I think.
Many people felt that way about the watch, and
the watch is not the S curve for Apple by any sense of the imagination.
But it wasn't meant to be an S curve. It was meant to just.
Well, this is meant to be an S curve. This is Tim Cook's legacy.
This is meant to be.
But this could be an S curve. I think you're missing how intuitive this could be in the education segment.
Dude, no fucking kids are gonna wear this shit
with the Meta. That's the reason why they're you're talking about as the use cases for VR in general, and that can be done on a Meta Quest for $500. So the
100%
argument that has to be made is that Apple's product either has a killer app or something to do with Apple's ecosystem or partnerships, right? Like if Apple does have specific partnerships, whether it's in sports or in the Olympics or something, live TV or television, movies, media, something along those lines that make it proprietary where you need the Vision Pro. That's when you start to say, okay, this is going to be S curve. One YouTuber guy that put out an interesting video, he had an interesting take on it. He goes, people that feel like the Vision Pro is too expensive have to understand that people pay $6,000 for an Apple monitor. This is the same company that was selling Mac Pros at $30,000. And if you think about the fact that you can have 3 4K screens in the Vision of the Vision Pro, And there's people that will not buy laptops and not buy physical screens over those things. So when you look at it that way, what it's actually replacing sitting on your desk, if the fidelity is as high, the amount of equipment that it replaces in your physical world is it's actually a pretty good deal. 3,500 for
It's a good deal. The problem that I have is when I saw them like working on emails and then having music on the side and all that stuff, I'm like, maybe I didn't experience it yet. Maybe but I could not imagine that being the interface for which I engage in serious work, like hardcore shit. I need a computer for that. I need to be efficient. I need to be typing.
Yeah, but you're very ingrained in that right now.
A lot of people, you know what? A lot of people felt that way when the phones came out, and they were like, "Oh, I can't do all this work on my phone. I need to have my laptop."
I think you guys are using these arguments over and over again, but you're not answering my point. You're just saying like, "Oh, technology evolves, people evolve." I'm like, that's not the point here. I'm making a very specific argument about headsets.
Well, technology has evolved. It went from working on a computer to working on a laptop to working on a tablet to working on a phone. Everything has condensed, and there's always been new iterations of things to utilize for work. Nobody would have ever thought about working on any of these products. Now it's common to answer half your emails from your phone. Like I answer emails from my phone sitting at my desk instead of using my computer that's on my desk. I will answer emails on my phone. I mean, it's just natural.
Or if you're on the subway, but in my opinion, you're not going to wear these snow goggles on a subway.
Okay, but
no, I don't think you would just because you
snow goggles. I'm saying that there's going to be different generations of it eventually, and the price point's going to come down.
Okay, so Steve, what year does the generation get so cheap that it's an S curve for Apple?
I think it needs to have 3 or 4 years of innovations, maybe even 5 or 6 years, to where the price point can get to about $799 to $999. I think that's the sweet spot where you can see mass adoption.
So how does the stock grow in the meantime if that's not the growth curve?
The App Store.
How does the stock grow in the meantime?
You have to understand, they're not just releasing this product and leaving it out there. They're going to make an AI App Store, and it's going to print fucking.
Well, no, I'm bullish on that. I'm bullish on the AI part. I'm just talking about
that's going to make money. And once you incentivize creators with money to start developing these apps, that's when it starts to get serious. And that's what made
people are going to underestimate Siri. I think people think Siri's a joke and how much money Apple's going to pour into this, and how Apple does not fail. Okay. They're not going to fail at this if they want it to work, and they're going to have some super app where it connects everything. I mean,
I think they're gonna finally make Siri useful in a way that they've never been able to make it useful before on the Vision Pro, and you will actually get to see what Apple's AI capabilities are right now. Because for right now, it's nothing. But there's some hints in it. There's some hints in what you're seeing it do. What the phone is doing, even in these newer versions of the OS. Like now, when I send someone a voice message, have you seen this where you send someone a voice message and immediately underneath it has the transcript?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah,
things like that. So you know that you're training it, right? That it's training some language model. There's something there that's reading and understanding what you're saying. Same thing with your voicemails. That's coming in, or ways that you can have it. What is it? Photo to text. So you can like highlight a piece of a photo and have it tell you what it's
really
like.
amazing. It's good
so
stuff.
It's starting. So you see the breadcrumbs of how that could all come together with a really nice large language model and the face of it or the voice of it being Siri. And it could actually be a really useful.
Maybe that's where the Vision Pro becomes useful, when you can talk to the thing, right?
And the Vision Pro could end up being Apple glasses at some point that you wear. And think about that being hooked up to your phone and you meeting somebody and it doing translations if you don't speak the same language. I mean, go back and think about the Terminator movie.
It actually does that now. I saw a video about that. Real time language translations, like with your earbuds, someone's talking, it translates in your ear. You know.
It's going to be wild what these things can do, because technology doesn't stop advancing. And I think that's the thing that you got to remember. Never stops advancing. We're only going to see more and more. And I think you're really discounting how entertainment and sports and video games are going to change over the next decade. And how big those markets are.
Like video games, sports, and movies. Or TV shows, I think they're all going to come together, and it's going to be more experiential than it is being a passive observer.
Yeah. No, maybe maybe it happens.
All right, we gotta go. I don't know how we did an hour and a half and how we had 400 people still watching us.
They didn't leave. They definitely. All right.
I want to bring up one thing for Apple. Hold on,
Carlos, you can leave. I know you got to get out of here.
No, I'll stay.
Carlos, I want to ask you something off air. So just hold on one second.
Okay.
two things I'm bringing up right now, and then we can end it.
Wait,
So,
who wins the Super Bowl? Anybody predictions?
I could care
Damn,
less.
no one cares about football here. That's wild.
Well, I'll go to my buddy's house, but no.
All right, I'm sharing right now.
You're definitely not sports junkie.
So this is services that I mapped. So I mapped this out over the past 6 years. Okay. Services is growing like crazy. Like in 2025, this is going to be, based on this trajectory, 100 billion annualized revenue business. This just keeps growing like a weed. Like this is crazy, their growth rate. And it's only going to keep getting bigger with AI and VR. There's going to be way more things. And then never discount this. Never, ever discount the power of Apple's profitability, because they have returned more than the market cap of Tesla to shareholders since 2012. Like, really think about that. $631 billion in buybacks and $147 billion in freaking dividends. Like, that's crazy. Like, they're going to keep buying back shares every quarter, 20 billion on average, and keep manufacturing EPS. So they can have a 1 year-over-year period here and there of no top line growth and EPS still expand. We just saw that. EPS actually grew year over year with revenue declining because of how many shares they're taking out of the market.
But that's seen as a bit of a hack. Like that's great for the shareholders, but that's seen as a bit of a hack. But to your point, they are generating enough money that they can
manufacture
right,
that hack,
that they can buy
100%.
back those shares. So in terms of the
100%.
stock, yes, I agree with Steve. It's hard to bet against Apple stock, even if you might not believe in necessarily the company. They just have so many ways that they can win, that it's hard to bet against them as a company long term, even if short term they take a hit here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Omit one more slide. I hit it too slow. Like, so this is their shares outstanding since 2014. Like, look at that. How much they've bought back.
It's like Bitcoin.
Over the past
A fucking halving event every year.
That's literally what's happening.
Like,
That's literally what it is.
if they keep going at this rate over the next 5 years, they'll have close to freaking 10 billion shares outstanding. And then don't forget, at some point, their MO is to create value for shareholders. They'll split shares again. And when they split shares again, they're going to make the stock more affordable. People are going to see Apple's a $50 stock or $60 stock, not a $200 or $300 stock.
Options go crazy.
And you'll get more people buying. Yeah, I mean, and I understand splitting shares doesn't do anything for
Steve,
the
are
market cap of
buybacks
the
a
company.
scam?
No,
it's a hack.
buybacks are amazing.
You know,
Butt says buybacks are a scam.
they kind of are. If you think about it, they kind
I mean,
of
they're
are.
not a
But
scam.
if you're in it to make money and they have the money, I mean, they're
the most efficient way of returning capital to shareholders, because if you return all of it through a dividend, you're getting taxed on that money. Buybacks are taxed at a much less rate. It is the most efficient way for them to reward shareholders. And every time they do a buyback, your shares represent more of the company.
That's true. Well, that was
All
good.
right. This is good. B. Martin says this debate I want to hear. Yeah, one day, we got to get you on and you debate Steve on buyback.
Which debate? What wants to
buybacks
debate?
scam or not? No buyback.
Oh, let's do it.
Oh, you don't want to debate me on that.
So now Futt's definitely going to want to do. You think you're being too cocky on this one? He's definitely.
Yeah, Futt's gonna futt your
Look
butt.
at this. He's bringing out buybacks are illegal. He's bringing out stats and shit. You didn't know this, Steve. Did you know buybacks are illegal? You probably didn't know this shit. Look at this.
Hold
You're
on a
unprepared.
second.
You're unprepared.
That is not a free market idea or what happens in a capitalistic society. Companies can use money to buy back their shares.
Look, we got another one. SBC is a scam. Well, that's
Stock-based compensation is not a scam. Stop.
Well, Elon
All right.
scammed.
Yeah, Elon.
We got him for free, guys. Us Tesla shareholders, we just saved 55.
Did I see the Optimus video? Yes, that's why I'm a Tesla shareholder.
Dude, it's so funny that you became a shareholder because of this
Because of the
stupid
bot,
bot.
yeah.
It's like it's
Okay.
not a
They're
stupid
gonna
bot, but it's a
call it,
bot that's
right?
not going to be around for a couple years, and this is the
Oh,
only
it's
reason
fine.
you want to.
Oh my
They'll give me
god.
time to build a position. That's fine.
No, I like it. I like it. You're in.
All right, we done?
We're done. We'll see you
All
guys.
right, yeah, click it off.
Tomorrow.
I want to ask Carlos something.
Done.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
night.
See you later.